Hello and welcome to BTV.
The show where we want you to be encouraged, be empowered and be restored. I'm Dr. Clifton Clark and this is my lovely wife Marcia.
It's so great to be with you all today. We're going to be talking about relationships, in particular building lasting relationships in marriage. Did you know that marriage was actually God's big idea?
And not a human idea.
Not at all. Because if you need to know how to use something, you've got to go to the designer. The designer is the one who knows the original intention, whether it's a truck, a building, or marriage.
That is so true, Mars. And we're going to be spending some time really looking into the joy and the challenges of married life and what the Bible has to say about life's most important partnership.
And we're so pleased to have with us our special guest, marriage and family therapist Demeter Gonzalez. Demeter is going to share with us some tips on how to avoid some common relational pitfalls.
With increasing numbers of divorces and broken families, this is an important topic that every home must hear about.
So, make yourself comfortable. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Don't go away.
Stay connected with the BTV family 24/7. Check us out on Facebook for exclusive looks behind the scenes and uplifting messages from the Clarks. We also want to hear from you, so send your questions to be answered during the show. For more information, visit us at www.rcfchurch.net/BTV or find us here.
Welcome back, and if you're just joining us, we're discussing how to build marriages that last. Research shows that nearly 50% of marriages will end in divorce, and in fact the very idea of a traditional marriage is under threat in our society today.
We see the perpetual impact this has on the family through the children, who become more vulnerable to poverty, drug and alcohol abuse, and they end up suffering academically. So we're going to just look at some of the major factors that lead to broken marriages. One of the first big ones is communication. People just don't know how to communicate, especially with men. They tend to get quiet, all right?
I think communication is a huge challenge for a lot of people, and it's one of the major causes of the breakdown in marriage life. People often find it difficult to, especially when there's a sort of more of a dominant person in the relationship. It can cause the other person to not actually say anything. And in fact, a lot of people say, me and my wife, we never get into arguments. And that's because one of the partners in the marriage actually doesn't share their views or their opinions. So communication is huge.
And then, particularly for women, at least for me, we tend, I don't want any conflict, don't want any problems, so I don't say anything. And that's sometimes the worst thing. You have to say something.
Because after a while, you're going to see that there's going to be a volcano that's going to erupt.
Absolutely.
And then that's the time people often bring in, marital counselors, and it's often too late.
So major factor number 2, finances.
Huge.
Right.
I think particularly today, where we have huge impact on our society, people are losing their homes, losing their jobs. It's hard to find employment. That puts tremendous pressure upon family and husband and wives.
And it's important, I think, that you discuss finances and how to manage finances even before you get married, because the different traits and the way that people use their money, they're different. So it's important that you work out how much you're going to spend, have a budget, and try and stick to it.
Yes. People are getting married nowadays a lot later, and we're fixing our ways. We're used to having our own monies, having my own apartment, having my own car, and then we get married, and all of a sudden, can I buy that dress? Can I buy that suit for $400? And it can be a massive challenge.
Absolutely. So again, the communication piece comes back into it. So the third major thing is destructive and addictive behaviours. They can really have an impact, not only on the wife, but if there's children involved.
Yes, indeed. And I think addictive behaviours affect everyone, male or female. I'm sure that even our viewers, many are facing addictive behaviour, be it alcoholism or gambling or pornography. These are things that we need to identify earlier as possible and seek help. So if you're here and you're married and there's an addictive habit, that whether it's gambling, alcohol or drugs, I'm going to advise you, seek help. Don't just suffer alone. There's help out there for you.
The fourth one is a bit tied to the communication bit, the selfishness, thinking only about me. And especially when you get married, that mindset has to change, right? It has to change from me and or me, right?
Right. And it's difficult because people are often sort of intrinsically selfish, and we have to learn to share. Marriage is about sharing. The Bible says the two shall become one.
And it doesn't come out automatically, right?
It takes
time. Absolutely.
I think people need to understand that as long as the communication keeps going, then this understanding of what it means to be in union will develop and grow.
And lastly, what we're going to look at today is lack of a spiritual foundation. Everything needs a spiritual foundation because nothing can stand without a foundation, right?
Right, indeed. And in fact, when the Bible talks about marriage, it often uses the metaphor of the relationship between Christ and the church. There's a reciprocal love relationship that is hugely and fundamentally spiritual.
And what's key to this is that people don't realize that marriage is actually God's big idea.
Indeed, marriage is God's big idea. Firstly, marriages are to reflect God's image. The Bible said, "Then God said, let us make man in our image, in our likeness." So God created man in his own image. In the likeness of God's image, he created them male and female. That's in Genesis 1:26 and 27. Did you know that each individual, male and female, is created in the image of God? However, marriage couples have a unique capacity to reflect the image of God as husband and wife. And that's important to God's understanding and idea of marriage. And we shall see that we have the opportunity as male and female to reflect the love of God and the beauty of God. Secondly, fruitfulness. God's second purpose of marriage is to create a conducive environment for the rearing and nurturing of children. The Bible says that God blessed them and he said unto them, "Be fruitful and multiply in all the earth." Genesis 1:28. Now, children are a gift from God, and with them comes great responsibility. Did you know that 3 in 10 children grow up in broken homes, and children from broken homes account for 70% of those in juvenile detention, 57% of inmates, 63% of teenage suicide, 71% of teenage pregnancies, 90% of homeless juvenile and runaway. Children are to be reared in an environment where they can learn about the Lord and they can grow in Christ and become good citizens too.
Thank you so much, Dr. Clark. I believe that today what Dr. Clark has said has spoken into the life of someone out there. And it's our prayer that today your marriage will be put right back together. When we return, we're going to spend some time with marriage and family therapist Demeter Gonzalez, who will share with us some tips on how we can improve our marriages.
Help keep BTV on the air. If you've been blessed by our programming, here are some ways to give. Join our B100 Club and sign up to give monthly or give a one-time gift of any amount. You can learn more at www.rcfchurch.net/BTV. Help us continue encouraging, empowering, and restoring lives.
We're so happy today to have our special guest, Demeter Gonzalez, a marriage and family therapist from Chesapeake. So glad you could be with us today, Demeter.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
We met before, you and your husband, Domingo. It's so good to know that marriages can still last quite a long while. We've been married for 27 years. You and Domingo have been married for?
27.
Oh, look at that. Great year.
Yes.
And when we were getting married, you know, people thought marriage was a good thing. But I've noticed in the last few years, especially amongst our unsaved friends, they think marriage is going out of style. Do you think marriage is going out of style, Demeter?
Not at all. I think marriage is very much in style.
All right.
I do think it has a lot of distractions.
Right.
But I do think it very much is. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people get sort of kind of hopeless about marriage.
Right.
But it's a good thing.
What are some of the things that makes people think that marriage is hopeless?
I think with their friends,
Okay.
you know, declining in a successful marriage and giving up, and you know, like for me, I'm not sure about for you, but all the friends that I kind of grew up with that we got married together,
Right.
I'm kind of like the only one still married.
Oh, goodness.
So I think it can feel like, what's the point?
Right,
You know,
right.
they don't work out. I mean, nowadays there's so many options
Right.
that it just seems like marriage is the last option that some people take.
Do you think the fact that people are getting married a lot later now, we got married at 23 years old, people are getting married more in their 30s and in their 40s, do you think that's part of the problem? The old adage, you cannot bend a tree when it's old, or stuck in their ways.
Yeah, I do think that it makes it much more difficult because they are very, you know, sometimes rigid, set in their ways, and change is hard. So it doesn't help, but it's still something they can still work around if they're open and, you know, prepared to do the work ahead. And it is work ahead.
Well, indeed.
So you talked about briefly about some of the things that, you know, make marriage hopeless. What are some of the things that comprise a successful marriage?
I think definitely communication.
Right.
Keeping that open, time, because you know you have time in the beginning, you date, you look forward to the weekends, but then the reality, when you get married, you have to work, you have the household, you have
Right,
kids.
right.
So finding that time is going to be very important, actually making the time.
Okay.
So I think time, communication, something recreational, something that you both enjoy doing together, are very helpful things to build a successful relationship, and being transparent, so that you can be yourself and not feel like, you know, you have to do all the add-ons, the put-ons.
Understood. So a couple of things I hear. When we first get married, particularly the men, they've got lots to say, but something I hear often is that when we get married, guys don't want to talk. What's that about, Amita?
Yeah, I do hear that a lot, and they kind of retreat inward. They are thinkers, and
Okay.
you know, as they say in one of those books out there, you know, men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
Right.
So they're in their cave, and so when we
Unless
go,
basketball or football's on the TV.
indeed. So when they're in their cave, we're like, you know, can I come in?
Right.
So I think it's being able to share, you know, when in the silence, it really makes me feel detached.
Right.
And I do want to feel included. So, you know, talking about those things to feel more included instead of excluded.
Okay. And so from the woman's point of view, we can get a little bit, we're already married. Why am I making an effort?
Right.
You know, why?
Right.
Why is that still important when you?
Very much so, because there's effort from day one needed,
Right.
effort until the end. There always needs to be effort. And you also hear, well, if I have to tell them, then what's the point? The point is that you get what you need out of the relationship, and they have a greater understanding of what you need.
Right.
So I think it's being able to just know that marriage is work. It's always going to be work.
Wow.
You know, and so not work in like a chore sense, but work in something that you're building and creating.
What can we do to not make it seem like a chore? Can you give us some pointers on that? Because as you say, after you've been married for a while, you just think, okay, he knows, I know, you know, how can we keep that spark, that flame going?
I think in knowing the purpose of marriage, you know, knowing that, you know, it is created to bring God glory, and sometimes we get into the me, the my, the ours, the
That's so
I,
true.
and it's us, we, ours. You know, so I'm going in it with the expectation, even if you got married without the premarital, but in having that frequent, you know, yearly seminars, things that you go to grow your marriage, then you can realize that I do need to keep those things going, and there's a part that I play so that it benefits the relationship.
You mentioned communication is an important factor. What about finance? Does that play another?
That's one of the top areas
really?
that couples suffer, the finances. You know, who's going to manage the finances, how to include that other party in the finances, you know, the money that's being spent that you don't agree on. So I think finances is a big area, one of the top 5 that affect the relationship.
So unfortunately, people wait until things are their marriage is in trouble before coming to see you. What are the sort of services that you do offer?
We offer individuals counseling. When I say individual, it's on a single couple basis.
Right.
And we also have group sessions where couples come monthly that they can be enriched in their marriage. If we're talking about, finding the fun back in your relationship or whatever topic it may be, we have monthly as well as weekly sessions if they need that set up.
Okay.
I know you got a book out. Tell us about it real quickly.
It's Marriage, Do the Math, and it helps couples, whether they're first coming in a relationship or been, to work on adding those components or taking away those components that are not fruitful.
Thank you so much, Demeter, for being with us today. And you need to get that book, Marriage, Do the Math. For those of you who are interested in learning more about the services that the Marriage Institute offers, you can visit us at rcfchurch.net/btv.
So stay tuned. When we come back, we'll be answering questions that you've sent in about relationships. Don't miss it.
Help keep BTV on the air. If you've been blessed by our programming, here are some ways to give. Join our B100 Club and sign up to give monthly or give a one-time gift of any amount. You can learn more at www.rcfchurch.net/BTV. Help us continue encouraging, empowering, and restoring lives.
This is my favorite part of the show, the part where we get to hear from you, our viewers. We are so delighted to have Delora with us this afternoon. And what questions have you got for us, Delora?
Well, I have some exciting questions for you. Our first question from one of our viewers: what do you do when the thrill is gone?
You get it back, right?
Well, that's in fact a reality. Sometimes the thrill leaves marriage. I think when we allow it to happen.
I thought it was a song by B.B. King.
Well, that too. What I think is that it's easy to start off well. We can all be dating our spouse and bringing flowers, and as the years go by, you start taking each other for granted. But there's hope. We can actually bring back spark to our marriages. And what we need to do is remember the things that we used to do.
Absolutely. You've got to get it back, right?
Get it back.
Yeah.
And that means dating your spouse.
Exactly.
Doing the things that used to surprise, little notes, things that keeps the relationship exciting. And just bring back those things, and you'll find that the marriage life is going to be, the thrill will return again.
Yeah, it's definitely about working at it, because you can just get used to doing the same things every day. You've got the children, you've got work, and it's just gets to the point where your relationship isn't first anymore.
Right.
So when that thrill goes, think to yourself, it's an intentionality. You've got to be intentional about getting that thrill back.
So if you're out there and the thrill is gone from your marriage, do your best to bring back the spark and life in your marriage.
And if you need to go and see Demeter, she'll definitely help you. Trust me.
Okay, question number 2. Who comes first, God or your spouse?
Well, it has to be God. And we're not just saying that just because we're Christians. We're saying that because God is the foundation of all good things. And I recognize that if you get closer to God, you will get closer to each other. And many people lose much of their closeness because they move away from God. It's an indicator. Move away from God, you're going to move away from people. So, put God first, get close to Him, you'll get close to each other.
Ditto.
Okay, this is some wise counsel. I hope that you all are getting this. Next question. How does marriage impact children?
Wow. Well, for sure, marriage has tremendous impact. As a matter of fact, a lot of the negative things people pick up about marriage, oftentimes they are modeling things that happens in in their own lives as they were growing up. Oftentimes when a young man sees his mother being beaten and his mother being treated in a certain way by his father, he can easily come and repeat that particular behavior. So what we model, we're actually teaching our kids what is normal for marriage. And so it's important that we recognize that how we behave. There are certain things that my wife and I would never discuss before the children. We can be having an intense conversation, but when the kids come home, we tone it down. We want to show them and model to them the positive aspects of being married. So it has tremendous. What do you think?
And there's some things that kids haven't got any business being part of. He and I got married, it wasn't the kids. So you have to get it that you spend the kids' time you spend with them and the time you spend with your husband, or the time you spend with your wife. And it's just knowing where those boundaries are.
Okay, and our last question from one of our viewers out there: what are some of the ways to prioritize your spouse in the relationship when life gets busy?
And we know about busy. So again, it comes back to intentionality. Unless you are intentional about being with this person who you married, you've got to really, really want it. It means that you're going to do anything and everything that you need to. It might mean sending him a text. It may mean even sending him an email, just saying, I love you, boo. Just doing that, just to make the difference. And you'll be so surprised. He will be surprised as well. And for him, it might mean buying her a bunch of flowers just because.
And make sure, absolutely necessary, have at least one special date night per month, at least, if not once every couple of weeks or once a week, but at least once a month, whereby it is sacrosanct. No matter what happens, you ensure that that date is kept.
And we got to the point where it wasn't just about going out to eat. Go to a game. Do something a bit different. Take some time to actually plan out how we're going to do, what we're going to do that's different, that's exciting, that will make us laugh. Anything else, Laura?
That is all for today. Great answers.
I'm really, really sorry we've gone to the end. But if you have any questions that you want to send if you have any questions for us, please feel free to send them in. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter, or go to rcfchurch.net/VTV. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.
Here at Restoration Christian Fellowship, our contemporary worship, our authentic relationships, our welcome family setting, and our relevant messages are all designed so that you can be everything God has designed you to be.
What I love about RCF is the fellowship. It's all about God.
So why don't you join us as we help you explore your dreams and fulfill your purpose. See you right here, 10:30 every Sunday. See you then. Thank you so much for being with us. We trust that you have been blessed by today's program on marriage and building lasting relationships.
So just remember, the purpose of marriage is to reflect God's image. It's about fruitfulness and loving companionship. So until next time, be encouraged.
Be empowered.
Be restored.
God bless you.
God bless you.